Warning, the Stone Age Gamer includes a lot of bad language. Cover your mother***ing ears.
Good evening and welcome to episode 129 of the Stone Age Gamer podcast for the week of December 9th, 2016. I am Kris Randazzo, and joining me as always is One Night Stand, Dan Ryan.
I'm worth it, though.
Hell yeah, you are. Continuing our theme from last week, Dan and I are going to once again equate video games to relationships. But before we get to that, here's your weekly reminder that you can email us at mail@geekade.com. Let us know what you think of our show, what topics you would like us to discuss in the future, or just say hello, because we always want to hear from you, the listener. Also, just a quick reminder that you can still get 20% off all orders from Rolenta Press until the end of the year using the promotion code PHEIV. Rolenta Press is the Leonard Herman site, so this includes Phoenix 4 and Ralph Baer's Videogames in the beginning. Plus, and this is pretty cool, Mr. Herman had mentioned on our show Michael Thomason's book, Downright Bizarre Games, on the show, and wouldn't you know it, Mr. Thomason contacted us and said that anyone who orders his book from Good Deal Games can get $5 off by using the promo code WAFFLES. As you can guess, he let me come up with the promo code myself, and I said waffles. He countered with detergent, but he said, no, waffles it is. Note that they do not actually have a cart system in place on the website, so to enter a code, so when you fill out the form, you just need to mention our podcast or, of course, the word waffles. So that book is on my Christmas list. I'm looking forward to it. It really looks interesting. It's got a bunch of just weird games. It's got Incredible Crisis on the cover.
Well, there you go.
I mean if you don't know Incredible Crisis, it's amazing. PlayStation
You're not
1
allowed to listen to the podcast anymore.
Yeah, seriously. What the
until
heck?
you play it.
All right, let's see. Sorry, I just got really confused. I love my wife. She just sent me a message that said, it's not air conditioning, but it's chicken flavored. And I'm sure it's a link to something.
Don't click it now.
No.
It's going to take you to meatspin.com, and that's going to be the end of the show.
Wishing I had some chicken-flavored air conditioning. Not nearly enough Syphilin quotes on this show. All right, down to business.
There
Dan,
really isn't, by the way.
It's true. There aren't enough Syphilin quotes in life, I feel.
Do you remember when I had a name tag that said Precious Roy at the store we worked in?
I do remember that.
And people used to call me Precious like that was my name? That was
I used to
weird.
have a shirt that said Crescent Fresh on it.
So good. So good. Anyway, Kris, you were about to say something before I cut you off.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, what is on our docket tonight? What are the analogies we're working with this evening?
Well, so last week, in case you didn't catch the show, we talked about game franchises that we broke up with and will not go back to, and game franchises that broke up with us. This week, the two that we're going to cover are game franchises that we simply grew apart from over time. It's not that the games are bad, it's just not something that we're into right now, but there is the possibility that something might hook us back in.
It's not you, it's me.
It's not me, it's you. But you might change, and that's cool. I'll keep that option open. And then finally, we're going to end up the night with game franchises that we are going to stick with no matter what. They have thrown a bunch of nonsense at us, and we're going to stick with them regardless.
No matter what.
Came
home, our shit was out in the yard.
Megan needs her jacket.
One day I came home, I accidentally bought a couch. How do you accidentally buy a couch?
Oh, goodness. So, Kris, why don't you start us off? What is a game franchise that is still good, but you grew apart from?
That would be Uncharted.
Okay.
I'm well aware that this is good stuff, and I to this day have not been able to figure out why I fell apart from it, besides the fact that I don't have a PlayStation 4.
That's part of it.
This started before that. I got a PlayStation 3 and I played Uncharted, and I was floored by that game. I loved it so much. It was so much fun. I loved the characters. I loved the personality. I thought it was gorgeous. I loved the way it handled QuickTime events. Like, it was just wonderful. And then Uncharted 2 came out, and it was like, I was beyond mind blown. I couldn't believe how good the game was. Uncharted 2 is a goddamn masterpiece. It's so freaking good. I was chomping at the bit for Uncharted 3. My wife bought it for me as a birthday present. And I remember getting it in the mail shortly after I had hand surgery. And I have this picture of Uncharted 3 next to my bandaged hand that couldn't hold a controller. And I was like, damn it. I really want to play this right now, but I can't. Because I couldn't wrap my hand around a controller. So when my hand finally healed enough to play it, I popped that sucker in and I started playing it. And then I just kind of stopped. Like, I didn't get very far. And I don't know what it was that stopped me from moving forward with that game. Because it was still good. Like, I was clear. I don't know. I don't know. And then after that, like, they made the version for Vita. I have a Vita. I never got it. I never got the Uncharted for Vita. I just was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I want to play this on handheld. I don't know why not. I don't take it anywhere. I'd just be playing it in bed, which would be perfectly fine. But
yeah.
And then, yeah, like, I don't know what it is. Like, Uncharted 4 looks incredible for PlayStation 4. Yet even that wasn't enough to make me really start considering, like, I need to get a PlayStation 4 because I need to play this game. It should have, but it's not. And I'm well aware that it is a fantastic franchise and that it's still good at what it does. And I am interested in hoping that I will make myself play Uncharted 3. I feel like it's going to happen to me the same way that it happened with Majora's Mask. Like, I tried Majora's Mask and I just didn't finish it, and I tried it again and it just didn't hook me, and then the third time I tried it, I played it through to the end and I was like, this game's incredible. So here's hoping.
What was wrong with me?
Yeah, what was wrong with me? It's fucking ugly. That's what was wrong. It wasn't me. It was Majora's Mask. That game is hideous.
Yeah, that game is beer goggles. Like, oh boy, it is not good.
3DS version looks pretty nice though. I played like 5 minutes of it. They cleaned it up real good because the core, the meat, another Syphilin reference. Hey, Pedo, kick that dude's ass that scratched your bike. Yeah, so
even if nobody else is laughing, I think that shit's hysterical. So, you feel free to throw those in, just peppered.
Yeah. But yeah, the 3DS one looks really nice, and since the bones of that game I think are fantastic, it's it was so damn ugly that fix the day. That's not the problem with Uncharted. The game's gorgeous. So
it's stunning.
I don't know, Uncharted. It's a franchise. I need to go back to it someday. I really do. But it fell out of my good graces, and I no longer am so excited to play a new chapter in Uncharted, and I seriously don't know why. It's not like they were coming out too fast. They didn't annualize it or anything. It was reasonable development time between titles, and it carried over to Last of Us. Like, really? I wasn't,
because that game is also fantastic.
I know, and I look at it and I think, this is objectively good. Why don't I want to play it?
There's no argument that that's good. Well, yeah, like, I don't know, man. I guess maybe, like, big action game fatigue, perhaps?
That doesn't exist for me because Uncharted is the only thing like it that I play.
I'm going to say, you're not, that...
I don't play Assassin's Creed. I don't play Call of Duty. I don't even play the Batman Arkham games. I don't play anything.
Which is crazy, because those games are good.
Yeah, they are.
But,
I don't know.
Yeah, there's not really a good explanation for that. I think you're going to feel the same way when I give you my first one here. I mean, I suppose I understand where you're coming from with Uncharted, though. I mean, like, because I look at it, and I could see getting burnt out from the 3D action big game, genre. I mean, that's kind of what happened. And also the game wasn't great, but like the first Watch Dogs. Now, Watch Dogs 2 is apparently much, much better than the first one. But, I got the first Watch Dogs and put it in and couldn't bring myself to finish it. Like, couldn't even bring myself really to start it, let's be honest. I mean, I played a bit of it and was just done with that particular thing that it was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that.
You know, I'd had enough of that. But and to be fair, I haven't played Uncharted 4 yet either. So not because I don't want to, mostly because I don't have the time to. And you know, my wife and I were sitting down kind of debating which of the two we were going to get, Rise of the Tomb Raider or Uncharted 4. And we went with Rise of the Tomb Raider because we just really loved the Tomb Raider reboot and we're so excited for this one that it was like, all right, well, we'll get to Uncharted, you know? We'll go back to the original here. But my first one that I want to talk about, a franchise that people love, and it's particularly where I started to fall out of love with the franchise, is Resident Evil.
Okay.
I was a massive Resident Evil fan. I adored the first 3 games. And once 4 hit, I started to fall out of love.
What about
And I
Code
know
Veronica?
that sounds crazy, but 4 is the one that I started to be like, I'm kind of done.
That's really interesting to me. Now, what about Code Veronica?
Code Veronica came out after 4, correct?
No. Code Veronica was on
came out.
Dreamcast.
Okay, Dreamcast. I played it on PS2, whenever the PS2 version.
Okay. It was still pre-4.
Still pre-4. Okay, yeah. I like Code Veronica as well.
Yeah.
I
don't know
if
really interesting to hear you say that, because I never really liked Resident Evil before Resident Evil 4.
Right.
And actually, that's not entirely true. It was Code Veronica that was the first game that I played through the bulk of.
Okay.
And there was something about the tank controls that never really sat right with me, but there was something about the presentation and the mythology that really interested me. And because it was on Dreamcast and it wasn't, you know, hideous PS1 graphics,
Yeah, well,
I was able to really kind of enjoy it. And I thought Code Veronica was really cool, but Resident Evil 4 was a damn revelation. I could not put that game down. And I was like, all right, this is really exciting. Let me go back and try some things. And I played the Resident Evil remake, which was really cool. Resident Evil 0 I didn't get very far into, but it was still interesting. And the 4 gave me an appreciation for the Resident Evil franchise.
Right.
It was 5 that kicked me right back out, because 4 felt to me like an evolution of that tank-controlled type of thing. You were a bit more mobile, but because the camera was 3D, it made you feel a lot more mobile.
Right.
And those limitations on the controls really helped add to the intensity of the survival aspect of it. And then 5 rolled around, and it was basically it was moving too close to just being a zombie shooter.
Right.
And 6
right.
I didn't even sniff.
And then I didn't even play 6.
Yeah, I was not even interested. But
Yeah,
I can see where you're coming from there. I do think it's odd just because of how highly I regard RE4. Like, it is one of the few modern games that I've played through multiple times.
Most people do. Like, I am firmly in the minority on not loving Resident Evil 4. 1, 2, and 3, Code Veronica. 0, 2 a bit, but they were trying a little bit too hard with 0, I felt. But the first 2 especially. I mean, 3 gets a little lost in the weeds as far as its storytelling is concerned. It gets a little too much into its own mythology and is just a little silly at times. But the first 2, I mean, I simply adored those games. I loved the horror aspect of it. I loved the kind of ode to, you know, to the movies that it was aping. And, you know, I never loved it because of the cheesy dialogue. I loved it in spite of the cheesy dialogue. You know, that, like, I wasn't like, it's so bad it's good. Because that's never been my thing. You know, I'm just, this sucks and I'm gonna love it in spite of it. So, like, that's just not how I am. So,
and yet you're friends with me.
And yet I'm friends with you, which is, you know, you suck, but you are what you are. It's no, but you know what I mean. Like, it to a certain point, like things like Ed Wood, you know, like Ed Wood films and, you know, Plan 9 from Outer Space and that. But there's a very fine line between, like, there's artistic integrity with things that suck but are still good because they have that artistic integrity, and then there's just bad shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and the dialogue in Resident Evil 1 is, it's so bad it's funny.
Right.
But at the time, it was stuff like that that took me out of the experience and made me want to play it. Like,
yeah,
you refer to somebody as the master of unlocking.
Plowed right through that and was like,
and they look like a stack of crates walking around.
But at the time, they didn't, though. You know what I mean? Like, at the time, the first time you play the first Resident Evil game and you get into the hallway, you exit the dining room and you get into the hallway and there's a zombie and he turns around and looks at you. It was fucking horrifying. Nothing had looked like that before. And now you look at it and you're like, oh my God, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. I draw stick figures look cooler than that, you know? But at the time, it was so intense. And the first time those spiders show up, like, it was just crazy. And then, I don't know, like, just there's something about 4 that just didn't hook me. It's a good game. It's well made. But I just didn't love it. And like I said, 5, I didn't enjoy either. Never bothered to play 6. Now, all that being said, the demo so far for Resident Evil 7 is scary as hell.
It's taking some steps in the right direction. It's like Capcom played the PT demo and said, oh yeah, Resident Evil used to be scary.
Yeah, let's do that. So I'm kind of, you know, with this kind of idea of, you know, we've grown apart, but maybe there's a chance in the future we'll come back together. Like, maybe Resident Evil 7 will be the one to pull me back in. But as of right now, you know, Resident Evil 6 hit, and I just didn't care, and that bummed me out because I really did love it.
Yeah, I get that. I know how that feels. I will just say one more thing about Resident Evil 4. It's got some of my favorite things relating to an escort mission ever, which is basically like hide in this box until I'm done.
That was appreciated.
The president's daughter or whatever.
Yeah.
You put her in a freaking dumpster. Just say, you just sit right here. I'll come back when I'm ready.
When I'm
that
ready
made me
for
so
you.
happy.
Yeah, that was good. But what else you got there, sir?
Well, let's see. The other proper one that I wanted to talk about, I mean, I have a couple other ones that are just little one-offs, but the other proper one I wanted to mention was Final Fantasy. I definitely fell out with that series.
That would be the next one on my list as well.
All right.
Where did you fall off, though?
I fell off, I would say, I don't want to technically say I fell off around 11 because 11 doesn't really count because it was an MMO, you know,
Right.
It wasn't really like playing a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah. I have it. I've never played it.
Yeah, I think I might even have it too. I don't know.
It came with the hard drive.
Yeah. I got that floating around here somewhere.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 12, I would say it probably started sometime around Final Fantasy 10 would be where it kind of started for me.
That's where it started for me as well. I have not finished any of them since 9. Never finished 10. Never played 11. In fact, I haven't played any past 10.
I have a sealed copy of Final Fantasy 13.
Do you?
Because I thought that was going to be the one that really made it happen for me. I was so impressed with that final trailer for that game. I was like, I got to do this. I got to give it a try. And I never even opened it. just never even did it. Yeah, it must have been sometime around Final Fantasy X. I remember liking Final Fantasy VI a decent amount back when it first came out. I rented it. I still wasn't into turn-based RPGs at the time, but I appreciated it. I eventually went back and replayed it when it was released in the PlayStation 1 with the CG cutscenes and whatnot.
Right, the collections they were doing.
Yeah.
Like it was 1 and, what was it, 1 and Chrono Trigger?
No, it was 4 in Chrono Trigger, and then 5 and 6. 4 in Chrono Trigger was Final Fantasy Chronicles. 5 and 6 were Final Fantasy Anthology.
And then what was Origins? Was it just 1 and 2? And then 3 is
Origins
the one
was 1 and 2. 3 got its first release here in America as a DS remake.
Right, okay.
4 eventually got a DS remake as well. 5 hit Game Boy Advance.
I think, yeah.
And PlayStation 1, I think, were the only ways 5 was made available here. Before, I think there's like mobile versions of all this stuff.
Right.
Now. But anyway.
And now there's that anniversary collection that'll be coming some point that has everything. But
yeah. Well, we'll see what actually pans out with that. I'm curious where that's going. Final Fantasy VII impressed me, but I never really liked it very much. That's a game that I've given
crazy.
I've given a solid shot to that game a handful of times, and I can never get past a certain... There just comes a point in that game where I just can't go any further. I've talked about it on the show before.
Yeah.
The plot is just like, it's real interesting, but then they're just like, fuck it, let's go to this town and sit here for like 6 months. Sephiroth he's already finished it. It's all done. He's killed everyone.
Everybody's dead. We've just been here drinking and just shooting the shit.
We know everything about Yuffie now. Everything.
There is that Final Fantasy VII, for as much as I love it, does have a tendency to stick to the traditional grindy kind of tropes that RPGs were known for, that some people appreciated. And like, if you don't appreciate the grind, you're not a hardcore gamer, whatever. And more modern RPGs have done away with the grind to a certain extent. I mean, you still have to grind experience and levels.
Yeah.
But there were certain sections of Final Fantasy VII that you could progress up to a certain point, and then you hit a big brick fucking wall and needed to just grind levels until you could get up to it.
Yeah.
And overcome it. And there's really good stuff on the other side of every one of those walls, but there is a certain level of frustration that's just kind of built into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just got some real pacing problems that I've never been able to get through. I hope to someday, but...
and hopefully the remake will address some of those things. Exactly.
I am really interested in the remake. I hope it comes to Switch, just because I don't see myself getting a PlayStation 4 anytime soon. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I already have store credit applied towards Switch, so that's kind of covered. So I got my fingers crossed that... Final Fantasy remake comes to Switch, which it's. I think it's entirely possible. Cloud was in Smash Brothers, for Christ's sake. But,
no, it would make sense.
The Final Fantasy VIII, I never finished that one, but I did like it. Okay. The Final Fantasy VIII, you got to give that game credit. It had the impossible task of following up Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
There had been 6 of these games before, but Final Fantasy VII was a damn phenomenon.
Yeah.
And Final Fantasy VIII. Yeah, you got to respect it. It took the series in an interesting and different direction. It didn't try to ape FF7. It did the Final Fantasy thing.
It was just a new game, and Squall was a cool character.
Yeah, a bit on the whiny side, but whatever.
But he was cool. The Gunblade was fucking cool. And,
yeah, Gunblade was cool. Final Fantasy IX, though, was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy IX is great. It is so joyous and so old school, and Vivi is just delightful. But yeah, once Final Fantasy X hit, I don't know, like, Final Fantasy X was where Final Fantasy had really just severed all connection with old school to me.
Yeah.
It just kind of really, it paid a certain degree of homage to the older games, but it felt so different. And I don't know that I should necessarily hold it against it, because it was the 10th installment in a franchise.
Right.
And, by all means, evolve. And I remember I didn't like that they numbered Final Fantasy XI. Like, that should have just been Final Fantasy Online or something.
I would agree.
Making that the 11th installment, I wasn't crazy about that move. Final Fantasy XII, I thought, was really interesting. I loved the art direction. It looked surprisingly good for a PS2 game. Like, it was really, really cool look to that game, and I was interested in where they were going with it. Final Fantasy XIII took forever to come out, but was another stunner visually. But by that point, I was just, I don't know. I wanted to play it more than I actually wanted to. And 14 was another online one, and 15, I don't know, man. I know everyone's going nuts about it. The game's selling gangbusters. I don't care. I mean, I look at videos of it and I think this looks great, but yeah, it's not doing it for me.
Our friend of the show, Jessica, J Payne, was hyping up, in our chats about Puzzle and Dragon. Final Fantasy kept bleeding into it, because she was incredibly excited about 15. And her excitement for it was
Final Fantasy 15 was what, Versus 13 that turned
like
into
that,
Final
yeah.
Fantasy 15? Come the hell on.
Yeah, but like her excitement for it was so infectious that I was like, I haven't played a proper Final Fantasy game since 10. Let me check this out. So release day happens, and I hop on to the Live at PlayStation channel, and start finding some Twitch streamers. And I watched a guy. He was a British guy. I don't think that matters to the story, but he was. For about 20-25 minutes play the game. And in that 25-minute time period, I saw him sleep at a hotel, walk to his car, put gas in his car, and then start driving to the next thing. That's all that happened in 25 minutes. And I went, yeah, I don't need this. Like, that completely killed my interest in it again. And perhaps that was a completely unfair segment of that game to judge it on. I really don't love the way the new main character Noctis looks. It's just a little too much of that particular archetype that I just don't care for. Nothing terribly wrong with them. It's just like I don't like when the characters have. I don't know. There's just something about it I don't care for.
It's interesting that you mentioned those kinds of things like filling up gas. Like, I don't want to do that in games.
No, at all.
That's also one of the things that's scaring me about Breath of the Wild is, I don't cut down grass to get hearts. I hunt for food and then cook that food and keep it in my inventory and open up that inventory screen like in Snake Eater, like basically.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that kind of turned me off in Snake Eater was that kind of stuff. And as interesting as it was, it's like I feel like it's hard, especially as games get more modern and more realistic, to draw that line between realism and I'm playing a damn video game.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, like, at what point am I going to need to start going to the bathroom in a Metal Gear game? You know?
Right. And I just
if we're going through the motions of this being as realistic as like I need to eat in order to keep going in this game, at one point do they start pooping?
Yeah, well, it's a logical question. I remember when I was a little kid, I was watching a movie. I was like 6 or 7. I was watching movies with my grandfather. He always let me watch shit that I shouldn't have watched, but we're watching like Predator or something like that. And like I remember asking my grandfather that question of like, hey, why don't any of these guys ever have to take a shit? Like, they're out in the jungle for days getting hunted by this thing. Like, I didn't understand at the time that as part of the narrative storytelling, I am supposed to assume that they have gone to the bathroom at some point. But you're right, with games becoming so mired in the minutia of what day-to-day life is, like I legit watched this game for 25 minutes and nothing happened. Like, nothing. And it wasn't even like he was dicking around. He was driving. He was commuting. I do that for work every morning. I don't need to do that in this game. I mean, and man, I was one of those people who walked around and scoffed when others were like, Final Fantasy 3 is my favorite, and I'd be like, oh, you mean Final Fantasy 6, you uncultured swine. Meh. You know, like, I was one of those assholes. And now this isn't the one.
Yeah. The 15 ain't the one to drag me back in, no.
15's not bringing me back in. I am going to buy the 7 remake. That, without question. I don't know, because it's going to come out like episodically. I don't know that I'm going to buy episode 2 of the remake, but I would certainly be buying the first one.
Just to see
that might be the one to pull me back in. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. If it is available on a platform that I have, I would be certainly willing to give it a shot.
All right, so because we both had that one, give me your quick hitters before we go to break.
All right, my quick hitters are the Ace Attorney series. I know they're still good, just kind of haven't played them. Metal Gear, actually. I mentioned Snake Eater. Snake Eater was around when I fell out. I kept buying them, but
still got them.
Still got them. But yeah, I never finished Snake Eater. Never played 4. Don't know. And the Arkham games, I mentioned it earlier. I know they're great. I started playing the first one, and then I got distracted by the Metroid Prime trilogy. And I was replaying the first Metroid Prime instead of finishing Arkham Asylum, and then I never went back to it. And then by the time I even considered going back to Arkham, there was about 87 new Arkham games, because they annualized the hell out of that shit.
There's only 4.
And, yeah.
Well, 5, because the Vita, that counts. But, yeah, I feel kind of similar, not with Ace Attorney, but with Professor Layton.
Okay.
Loved those games. Don't know that I need to do it again. You know?
Yeah. No,
they're great. They're awesome. They've all been really, really good, but they're so derivative of each other that, and there's really, like, unfortunately, same thing with like Ace Attorney. There really is no way to reinvent that and still have it be a Professor Layton game or an Ace Attorney game, because it is such a definitive thing.
Yeah, it's just all about keeping it interesting and the narrative and the characters. And apparently they do a really good job of that. It's just Layton is a great example of a game that fits in this category, except I never liked it in the first place because I'm terrible at logic puzzles. The first one just made me mad over and over again. Like, I want to play this game because I like the world and I want to know the story, but I don't care how many sheep are over on that side of the lake. Just leave me alone.
How do I get all of them from one side to another, and I can only fit 2 in a boat? Son of a bitch! There's not an even number. Yeah, I'm with you.
What else you got? Anything else?
No, it was just those 2. Because I was trying to be professional and not go over time like we did.
Yeah, well, we're really good at going over time. Speaking of which, we're going to take ourselves a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about franchises we stick with no matter what kind of bullshit they give us. You're listening to the Stone Age Gamer podcast from Geekade.com, so stick around. And now, here's a look at some of the other original content available right now at Geekade.com. First up, breakfast cereal. You love it. I love it. Who doesn't love it? Seriously, who doesn't love breakfast cereal? I want names!
Dean?
You're on watch. Anyway.
You're on the list.
You're on the list. This month's Geekade Top 10 takes a look at breakfast cereal mascots of the past and present. Dan and I square off against each other to rank mascots in order of greatness in another Versus Top 10. Who is the craziest mascot out there? Are they called Sugar Smacks or Honey Smacks? Will Count Chocula prevail, or will he be devoured by Tony the Tiger in a horrible breakfast massacre? Find out in Geekade Top 10 breakfast cereal mascots.
It was a fun article to write. I enjoyed it.
Me too. I enjoyed you enjoying it.
Well, that's good. Next up, December is upon us, and with it comes the magic of the holiday season. What better way to celebrate that magic than with Magic the Gathering themed episodes of our gaming podcast? Honestly, there's probably 100 better ways to celebrate holiday magic, but this is pretty damn good too.
Muppet Christmas Carol is my favorite.
Dave and Jenga are joined by special guests to discuss the year in Magic the Gathering, including their thoughts on Commander 2016, their favorite and least favorite cards, and what they hope for in the new year. Don't miss You Shall Not Pass Go, Episode 10, a magical holiday special.
Magic. Then, the most off-the-rails comic book podcast on the internet has come to an end. Those zany mofos, this was written by my wife, those zany mofos, Dan, Dean, and Matt, will be devoting their skills in railroad hazardry to new and exciting projects in the near future. But don't shed a tear. Rumor has it, a new comic book podcast is coming soon. Right, Dan?
At some point, yes.
In the meantime, download the farewell episode, Paper Cuts Podcast, issue 111, The Final Trainwreck, with special guests Kris and Evan. Hey, I know those guys!
Me too! Finally, what a horrible night to have occurred. What might make it better? How about an audio version of the 1990 novelization of Castlevania 2? Yeah, 2. Yeah, they went with 2. It probably won't, but we went ahead and did it anyway. Ring the bells, Matt Ramo narrates all 22 scintillating chapters so you don't have to. Check out the latest installment of Decade's effort to provide you with audio versions of all the Nintendo novelization in Words of Power, Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. You're welcome, or we're sorry.
Mostly sorry.
We're mostly sorry. We're very sorry, actually. This was my idea, and it was a dumb idea. But we went with it, and now we have to stick with it.
We have to finish it. We will read all of the Worlds of Power novels. Evan is already several chapters into Ninja Gaiden, and Dave from You Shall Not Pass Go is already 3 chapters into Wizards and Warriors. We're going to finish this business come heck or high water.
That's right. I will be starting Shadowgate and Bases Loaded.
Bases Loaded.
What goes better with audiobooks than baseball?
You can catch all this great stuff, plus tons of other articles, videos, I use the word great loosely. Tons of other articles, videos, podcasts, and more right now at geekade.com. We are back from our lengthy break. We are back to continue talking about the kind of stuff we were talking about before, and I really should have thought about this.
All right, Purred Happily
All right.
from Parks and Recreation. Just in case anybody didn't get the joke, because they're funnier when I explain them.
I am the John Madden of video game podcasts.
Whoa, you're at least Pat Summerall.
Gee,
Which
thanks.
I don't even know if you get that reference, but let's go with it anyway.
I don't. I really don't.
He's the dead former co-commentator of football, I suppose, and I believe was in some. It doesn't matter. He's dead.
Yeah. So we are now going to talk about franchises that we will stick with no matter what kind of crap they give us. Dan, kick us off.
Tony Hawk.
Really?
Yep.
You keep trying that, huh?
Oh boy, do I. I keep giving
I want
it a go.
a picture of you on a Tony Hawk ride.
I want it to be good again. I want to love it. I think we've talked about before on the show. I believe we've covered this anyway, where I got the demo for the first Tony Hawk level, and it was just a level for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on the PlayStation 1. I got the demo from Pizza Hut, because that was a thing that happened at some point. And it was just, Jerry was a race car driver, and it was the first warehouse level in the very first game. I sat there one day, played that for 8 hours straight. 2 minutes over again. And I loved them. And I loved all of the Tony Hawk's Pro Skaters. And I loved American Wasteland and Project 8 and Underground and Underground 2 and all of that stuff. And Ride was an interesting idea. I get what they were going for. Like, if you've ever played the arcade snowboarding game and the arcade skateboarding game, they're fun. They're stupid and they're really hard. And like nobody's very good at them. But there was an idea there that was done horribly, and then downhill jet and like just ugh. But then Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD, the digital one, was awesome. It was really fun. There was a couple of hiccups with it, and you know, whatever. And this new one that they haven't finished yet, even though it's been out for a few years. Like I want it to be good, because when the Tony Hawk games are good, there's almost nothing more fun. There is a sublime oneness that you achieve when you are good at the Tony Hawk games and you are just skating around doing shit you could never possibly do in real life. They are, when they're good, they're amazing. And I'm going to keep trying it because they're going to get it again. They will hit it at some point. I'm confident.
Yeah, it's Activision. They're not going to give up.
No, which is good. This is a rare instance where I think Activision's dogged persistency is a good thing. But were you a Tony Hawk fan, Kris? I don't think we ever really talked about it much.
Not as big as a lot of people, but I have a couple of really, really great memories of Tony Hawk. I mean, I remember working in Funko Land, and I didn't really get it at first. I was like, oh, it's a skateboarding game. I'm not really into skateboarding, so I'm not going to give this much of a try. And I remember it being in one of our demo units at the store, and Superman by Goldfinger came on, and I was hearing it like, who's playing that song? I love that song. And like, it's coming out of Tony Hawk. I was like, Then I went over and I started playing around with it. I was like, this game is fun. This is really good. And I also very distinctly remember the Game Boy Advance launch. And they're like, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is coming out for this. I'm like, the heck you say? And then I saw a screenshot. I was like, what the hell is this? This isn't going to work. And then I read about it. They're like, no, it's polygons. Like, the skateboarder's polygons with no textures, and it doesn't matter because it's so small you'll never notice. I was like, that's just crazy enough to work. And when I played it, it's like, holy crap, this is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 on a handheld.
It works.
I cannot believe how good this is. There's no reason this should be this good. And it was a blast. You know what? You got to give Activision credit on that, man. They found really interesting ways to make their big franchises work on handhelds when they shouldn't.
They really did.
I don't know if you ever played the DS version of Guitar Hero.
Yeah, but it's great.
That thing, how did they think of that? You plug this thing into the Game Boy Advance slot. It's got buttons, and you strum with the touchscreen. It was genius. But yeah, man, no, I really dig the Tony Hawk's franchise. I kind of fell off it after 3. Because I wasn't that into it. It was really fun. And then once they started adding a lot of the things that made it less arcadey and more of a console experience, I really fell out of interest with it. But I always appreciated them. They just kind of weren't. It was never really that big for me.
I just love them. I'll keep going back to it. They keep hurting me, but I'm in. I'm hardcore in.
Good one.
What do you got?
Street Fighter.
Also on my list.
No matter what those assholes throw at me, I'll keep giving it a try.
That's right. Street Fighter EX. Yeah, sure. Let's try this one.
EX2. We'll give it another go.
Yeah, this is going to be better. No, it's.
Oh, EX3. It's on PlayStation 2.
Still awful.
Looks nicer.
Skullomania. Nope. Try again. Swing and a miss, boys. Swing and a miss.
Oh.
Street Fighter, the movie, the game? Ooh, no. Bad idea. Bad idea.
Now, I gotta say, Street Fighter 5 does nothing for me.
No, I haven't played it. I've watched it, and yeah, I'm kind of with you. But
it's not as interesting as 4. And I don't... it's just not, it's not doing it for me. I spent some time with it. I went to Mike Sheridan's house. I talked about it on the show. I spent time with Street Fighter V, and it's just, I don't know, man. Like, Street Fighter 3 was brilliant.
Street Fighter 4 was great.
Yeah, Street Fighter, all the iterations of Street Fighter 4, holy crap. There's, man, so much fun watching pros play that game. And you know that it was well balanced because so many different pros play as so many different characters. And I don't know, man, I was watching some Street Fighter V stuff from Evo, and it's just not grabbing me. It's not doing it for me. I don't like any of the new characters. I don't dig the art style very much. I like some of the things it's trying to do, but it's just not, no. But you better believe that the next Street Fighter game, I'm interested. As soon as there's news about Street Fighter V, I perk up. I'm like, ooh, what's in it now? Because that's the thing about Street Fighter, is that you never know when they're going to fix it. Like,
right. And when they do, it might be the best thing ever.
Yeah. I mean, look at Street Fighter 3. Like, Street Fighter 3 was cool because because it looked amazing. And I loved the look of the game. But some of the new characters were, you know, really bizarre designs. And it was it was playing on that certain thing that Street Fighter 2 had. Like, it wasn't as huge an evolution as I would want from a finally numbered Street Fighter sequel. But by the time they rolled out Third Strike, that became the best Street Fighter ever.
Yeah.
Like, they introduced that parry system, and it changed everything. And all of a sudden, Street Fighter 3 is godly. They tossed Chun-Li back in there, Akuma back in there, and all of a sudden, it's a masterpiece. So, who knows? Like, when they finally finish the roster for Street Fighter V, I'm not a fan of the way they're doling out this game piece by piece. But who knows? When Street Fighter V is done, they could come up with something that conceivably makes it Third Strike. You know what I mean? They could do that again.
Very possible.
So, no matter how much I think it's bullshit, I'm with you. You say Street Fighter to me, I'm there.
I'm in. I have to be. I have to be in. There's no option not to be.
Yeah, it's Street Fighter. It is one of my top tiers. And God, Ryu and Smash Brothers. Have you played that yet?
No,
I know you're not a Smash Brothers guy.
I have not, because I'm not a Smash Brothers guy. So
Ryu in Smash Brothers is so smart because he plays like Ryu. He makes the sound when he hits other characters, it sounds like getting hit in Street Fighter 2.
Which is awesome.
And he plays like Ryu. It is ridiculous. Like, of course, you just press a button to throw a Hadouken, but if you do the movements to do the Hadouken, the Shoryuken, and the Tatsumaki, they do more damage.
That's awesome.
It is so freaking smart the way they fit him into Smash Brothers. Yeah, seriously, Street Fighter is just... And to a lesser extent, I'll say Marvel vs. Capcom. I think we just recently talked about Marvel vs. Capcom on the show. And MVC3, no, doesn't do it for me at all. I don't like watching it. I don't like playing it. But MVC4, perk up a little bit. I'm not going to say I'm back in on that one.
I am.
It's not Street Fighter, but it's close.
It's got Mega Man and Captain Marvel in the reveal trailer.
Well, it's got X in the reveal trailer.
Well,
I wanted
not
Mega
Zero,
Man.
so...
True, but I'm assuming Zero's going to be in it because he was in MVC3 and he was in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, and he was a great character in both of those games.
He was, but it had X. There's Mega Man.
Yes, there is a format of Mega Man back in there, Captain Marvel in there. I'm interested. Not as interested as I am in regular Street Fighter news because it still smells to me like MVC is still going to be a constant combo fest.
Right.
And that kind of takes a lot of the fun out of it. You know, if you can keep stringing combos for literally minutes at a time in a fighting game, then I don't see the fun in that.
Well, you just have to deal a combo breaker, sir.
Yeah.
That's the same game, right?
No. Just about.
Yeah.
Oh, Killer Instinct.
Oh.
Jago does not need tribal tattoos.
No, he does not.
Anyway, what do you got?
Glacius did, however.
Clearly.
Well, I was going to say Mega Man as well, but I think we've covered Mega Man enough. But I'll keep playing him. I mean, the whatever Battle Network, like, well, it's got Mega Man in the title, I'll buy that. Oh, shouldn't have bought it, but did anyway. You know,
I like the first Battle Network.
Right. Well, but then the second one, and then whatever the Star Justice Saga.
Yeah, they kept just doing offshoot after offshoot. But I mean, original Mega Man, there hasn't been a bad one. Like mainline Mega Man series.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, there hasn't been a bad one. So yeah,
excellent game. But so the last one, because I was having kind of a hard time coming up with, you know, game franchises that that I would stick with no matter what, because, you know, like if you throw out a clunker, man, like there's not a lot that'll bring me back, because there's so much good stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like we are lousy with choice at this point.
Yes.
So I went with a developer. It's kind of cheating, but I will support everything that Double Fine does. And they're not all good. But sometimes Double Fine puts out Psychonauts. And then other times Double Fine puts out Brutal Legend. But then they do things like Costume Quest. But then they do things like stacking. You're like, like,
that's the thing. Double Fine always has good ideas. They don't always have good execution.
They don't. And like, there's some really, really great Double Fine stuff. The ideas are always fantastic. Always, always, always fantastic. Like, have you ever played the PHEIV?
I played the demo of it.
Oh my God, is the PHEIV amazing?
Yeah, it was really good.
One of my very favorite games. The idea was just incredible, but like nobody played it because it's just this really weird thing. But then, you know, they followed it up with, I mean, their next like big console release was Broken Age. And I don't love Broken Age.
Yeah, I didn't love it either, and I kickstarted that thing.
Yeah, as did everybody else. And I don't love it. It's okay. You know, it's pretty good, but it's not great. And I love Grim Fandango. I do love that game. I love Day of the Tentacle. But we've moved on so far from that type of storytelling that going back and playing them is a little difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I still like them, but, you know, now I'm going to get Psychonauts 2 in a year or so. And, like, I will continue to support Double Fine no matter what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad Broken Age exists. It just didn't really do anything for me.
You know, and they've turned out some clunkers, man. There's been some stuff that's come out.
Brutal Legend, how did that go so wrong?
Brutal
Legend was such a great idea.
That's the best idea. It should have been amazing, and there were parts of Brutal Legend that are absolutely amazing. But, like, I remember, you know, it's one of the last games that I, like, pre-ordered and, like, went and picked it up, and my wife and I sat down and, like, fuck yeah, new Double Fine game. We're going to play Brutal Legend. This is going to be amazing. And then, like, an hour into it, we were like, fuck, really? Shit. This isn't good at all. God damn it. You've been hornswoggled. Son of a bitch. And then, like, Costume Quest. Like, have you ever played Costume Quest?
No, I didn't.
There's a cute idea there, and Costume Quest 2 is certainly better, but, like, it's not really, like, this isn't really a finished product, you know? Like, it is a finished product, but, like, this is sort of a game, you know? It's just, they frustrate me. Because sometimes they get lost in how good their ideas are that they forget to make a game with it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's...
Well, if we're playing that game of developers, then clearly my answer is Nintendo.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I will stick with them no matter what kind of bullshit they give me. But no, that was a really good choice. I like that one. I have a handful of other ones here. I'll give my short answers real quick. Rocket Knight. If they crank out another Rocket Knight, I will give it a shot no matter what. Contra is another one of those.
Yeah, I would agree with Contra.
There's been some garbage Contra out there.
There really has.
But there's like Contra 4 was so good.
Contra 4 was so...
Oh, man. Chibi Robo. I will always play a Chibi Robo game.
I've never played one, so...
You know what? They're all so different from one another.
Right, right.
It's ridiculous. And Blaster Master. I will always play a new Blaster Master. I'm freaking jazzed for Blaster Master Zero. As far as I'm concerned, there hasn't been a legitimately awesome game since the first one.
No.
Every single sequel to Blaster Master has been decent at best. But the first one was a masterpiece, in my opinion. And Blaster Master Zero is looking sexy. I can't wait to see what that game looks like in motion. But the other one that I really wanted, the other like main pick for me here is Dr. Mario. I love the... No, go ahead.
Has Dr. Mario had like a stinker?
Stinker is kind of a harsh word.
Well, let me take that back. Have they had a steaming pile of shit?
It depends on what. Let me explain this. All right, you've got the original Dr. Mario,
right,
which is the core concept, and that's pretty much it. And that's great. The original Dr. Mario, great. Then you had Tetris and Dr. Mario, which was essentially the same game, but the music and the visuals had this dramatic 16-bit facelift. And it was a blast. And it was also on the same cartridge as Tetris, and you had mixed match.
Right.
Awesome. Fantastic. Then there was Dr. Mario 64, which is... This was the peak. This was as good as it got. Dr. Mario 64 was amazing. It had a freaking story single-player mode. It had a handful of different characters. It had introduced new music. It looked great. It had a 4-player mode. It was glorious. Every single Dr. Mario game since then has been a slight step down in some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
They've been reusing assets since Dr. Mario 64, reusing the same music assets, like going from NES to Super NES to N64, the versions of the music they used all sound like they were the same songs, like Fever and Chill, but they all sounded so different. They were different takes on those songs.
Right.
They've been using essentially the same take on those songs since Dr. Mario 64. But then when they went to, let's see, there was Dr. Mario Online that was... it was neat, but there was still no 4-player. Why did they take that out? Why was that missing? This is a damn Wii game. Why is that gone? Then they did Dr. Luigi, and I was like, all right, cool. Let's do this. I like this new concept you have of the L-shaped pieces. That's kind of neat. But 2 of the songs are missing. And not just that, when you go to the menu, it's literally the same menu from Dr. Mario Online RX, and the little selection, there's a rectangle that had all the songs in it.
Right.
It's the same size rectangle. Now there's just a bunch of blank space in it where those other songs used to be. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? How lazy is this? And then they did the Miracle Cure on 3DS, and that was another neat little wrinkle to it. But it was, again, they gave with one hand and took away with the other. And it's just features and things missing, and they're not putting all the effort into it. Every single game since Dr. Mario 64, I feel, has been half-assed. And I'll always buy them because there are new ways to play Dr. Mario. And at the end of the game, the skeletal structure of Dr. Mario is fantastic. And if there's a way for me to play that game against my wife at any given time, I want to have that available on my platform. But every single game since Dr. Mario 64 has made me mad.
Wow, that's an interesting one because I was never in love with Dr. Mario. Like, I played it, and it's good, and I don't deny that it's good, but it never hooked me quite the way that Tetris did. So, like, everything you just said, like, past Dr. Mario 64, like, I didn't know those things existed. Like, that's news to me, you know? So... Man, but like there's just a rectangle with a bunch of empty space in it. That's fucking awesome. That's such a slap in the face.
Looking at the menu for Dr. Luigi, I was like, you have got to be... It's 2 MIDI tracks. Why aren't they there? In what universe did you release this? Would you just forget to put them there?
Because that's possible.
They may have. I don't know. I'm mystified by it. Like, just ridiculous.
That's awesome. Excellent choice, though, sir. Excellent.
Thanks. All right. Well, this was a really fun experiment. We'll have to do something like this again sometime.
This is good. Every now and again, I have good ideas.
And when you do, hit them out of the park. And then other
Right.
times you suggest we make
Audio versions of
of
the
the
world's power. Oh, boy.
All right, everyone, that's our show. Join us next week when we'll be joined by Jeffrey Wittenhagen, author of The Complete NES, The Complete Super NES, and more. There are some interesting collector guides type of things. So he'll tell you all about them next week. Once again, you can get in touch with us at mail@geekade.com, as well as all flavors of social media that we inhabit. You can like us on Facebook, find us on Instagram at Geekade, subscribe to our YouTube and Twitch channels for all our latest video content, and follow us on Twitter at @the_Geekade. You can also find us individually on Twitter. I'm at Geekade Kris, that's Geekade Kris, and Dan is available at
EK Dan. I had to read that just to make sure. I'm reading along.
Just to be sure. All right. If you're interested in more information about anything we discussed here tonight, be sure to check out the show notes. And while you're at it, you can also subscribe to this and any of our other wonderful podcasts on iTunes or Stitcher, where if you're super nice, you can leave us a review, because any and all feedback is welcome and appreciated. We'd also like to thank our intrepid editor, Evan, for nothing, because he's not here.
That bastard.
But I'll thank him in advance for editing the show, so I don't have to. And we'd also like to thank Mark TDK Knight for our show's theme song. You can check him out on SoundCloud, Bandcamp, or his website, which we have a link to in the show notes. Again, always remember to keep your eyes on geekade.com, where we post something new every single day. Thank you again for listening. On behalf of myself and Dan, keep playing games.